Fire 'em up. It's time to get going on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Happy to be back. It's a beautiful Monday. Sorry for missing on Friday. I went out Thursday night and ate something that didn't agree and just couldn't get into work. So grateful and thankful, Chip, for filling in. Muchas gracias, señor. Yep. And we are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on Rumble. And we're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. We'd appreciate it. Give it a like, give it a share. Tell some people about WYAB. We appreciate that. You can follow me on X. I'm going to be retweeting a lot of sound. Got a lot of clips, obviously, with the assassination attempt on President Trump. Want to give me a follow at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. The number to the show today, if you want to call, 601-879-0002. Text line is open, 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You all are the saints. In Hebrews, it says, all that can be shaken will be shaken. And we're starting to see that shake. We are completely detaching ourselves from the reality. And, when you're not feeling well, you get a lot of time to think. In fact, the Sweet Pea would say that that's one of the things that she really appreciated about me. We'd be working on a complex problem, and I'd say, Sweet Pea, let's think. And I got to thinking about how everything is being sped up, how time is speeding up, how our kids are growing up faster than they were when we were kids. Andrew, the time is the constant. Yeah, but they're being exposed to a lot more. And I was really working on going in hard on the teachers. But after doing hours and hours of research, I've got a different opinion. And I plan to share that with you. But there's really only one place to start. Clay and I talked about it in the second hour of his show. And who else to kick off the show than this person right here? Let's go in 3, 2, 1.
Now, you may have heard that there's another dinner happening tonight. It's called the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where they're raising a glass to Donald Trump.
Yay.
Well, trust me, Arkansas, you throw a much better party.
And to think that there are some Republicans out there that would rather have that as our president than President Trump. It's absolutely sickening and horrifying. And on this show, we've documented in the past, and we'll bring it up as the program unfolds, the study that was put out by the University of Maryland, which shows that the political left is more susceptible in accepting to violence than the political right. Yet you go back and do all the research, and you find out that the rights numbers are higher. So you're like, this doesn't make sense. Why are all the numbers on the right higher? And so, me being the inquisitive guy that I am, I started looking this stuff up. One example of this was Robert Bowers, 46-year-old American from Pennsylvania. He went in and shot up a synagogue. Anti-Semitism was on the rise, even back then. This was in 2018 Tree of Life synagogue attack. It classified this guy as a right-winger. I don't know anybody who's sitting there advocating for violence on the right. I just don't. And if they are, they've been widely ostracized and booted. His motive was anti-Semitism tied to the white supremacy conspiracy theories. It's always white conspiracy theories. He believed the Jews were behind the white genocide, helping immigrants and refugees enter the United States, specifically an angry synagogue angry at the synagogue's link to HIAS, which is a Jewish group that helps immigrants immigrate into the United States, much like CARE does and much like some of these the Catholics do. I see you here. I'm going to put this caller on hold for a sec. Just for a sec. Turns out, though, that this guy had no affiliation he hated Trump. So all of a sudden now, we're trying to disguise all of the left-wing political violence as right-wing political violence. And we're not here for it at all. We are not here for it at all, ladies and gentlemen. I want to just get to this next clip. This is S.E. Cupp.
Its association was trying to sort of mend some fences with a guy who wants us dead, figuratively. Figuratively, he wants journalism dead. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think this is a great night for journalism. It's a night that's meant to be celebrating it, but
This is the kind of craziness that's leading as journalism. Let's go ahead and take this call now. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Is this Andrew?
This is.
Look, I want you to clear one thing up this morning. I was listening to your tape just saying from Arkansas, talking about Trump's big dinner party.
Yep.
This was not a dinner party for Trump. This was a dinner party for the press.
Absolutely.
It happens every year, and most times the president of the United States and his staff does not attend, but Trump did attend. So you need to let people know this was not a party for Trump. It was a party for the press.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Yep.
Okay.
Appreciate the phone call. It's the annual press correspondence dinner. It's always attended by the press, and normally they roast the president. Now, Trump didn't attend these in his first presidency. I think Joe attended one. And I can go back and during the break, I'll pull up the amount of times that the president has attended this event. But my point being is that here at the leftist, and we can all agree that journalism in America and around the world leans left. There are right-leaning organizations. Some people who lean right would argue that Fox News is not a right-leaning organization, just like some people would on the left would argue that MS Now is not a left-leaning organization. There are all sorts of different varying opinions on this. But my point that I'm trying to get through to everybody is that they are going to say, number one, that this wasn't left-wing violence. And we'll get into the shooter in the next segment and his beliefs. But they're trying to back this down because even the people on the right realizing what this is, but those of us who are in the sensible middle, who this program is targeted to, people in the middle. It wasn't a right-wing lunatic who shot Charlie Kirk, martyred him. Nope. It wasn't a right-wing lunatic who tried to shoot up ICE agents twice in Texas. Nope. It wasn't a right-wing terrorist who struck an ICE agent in Minneapolis and ended up getting herself shot. Nope. All this left-wing organized chaos. And it is what it is. We have to call it out for what it is. And these left-wing people just need to be called out. And we will continue to do that. You know, in the aftermath of the assassination attempt, first of all, before we go any further, thank God everybody's okay. I don't know if you got to see the video of that Secret Service agent taking that round to the chest. Thank God he had his bulletproof vest on, but it knocked him off his feet a good bit. And I did see some left-wing commentary saying there were multiple shots fired and yet he wasn't hit. Well, sometimes it's just how it works. Everybody thinks that everybody's an expert marksman, and in the heat of battle, shots are fired and they don't hit the mark. I'm glad no one did get hurt. I'm glad this guy's taken alive because now we're going to be able to interrogate him. And the FBI has great interrogators. And we'll find out what's happening to him. No, we're not going to waterboard him or do anything like that. FBI will do its job. They'll do a great job. And we'll get to find out what this guy was really all about. But my point is that the media, the mainstream media, is completely off its gourd. You got S.E. Cupp. Here's another one from CNN.
Broadly. And let's not forget as well that, as you mentioned, Scott, and we talked about some of the people at the beginning of this dinner who were present in the room. Yeah. Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk. You have people who.
That was absolutely soul crushing. Hearing Miss Erica say, "I just want to go home." And I will say this, there are people on the right who think that Charlie's assassination and martyrdom was a complete inside job. They continue to scream, Israel, Israel, Israel. Man, the left has been using Israel as a punching bag since time immemorial. That was heartbreaking watching her get escorted out of the room. Thank God that guy didn't get into the room. Could you imagine what would have happened?
Who are civilians who may or may not have had their own experiences with gun violence in this country. And as we know, Steve Scalise also there, a victim of gun violence as well. And there are others who we are not naming in the moment as well. And just to think about the prevalence of gun violence more broadly.
Yeah, and who was this left-wing lunatic who did this? And this is, you can already see the mainstream media starting to do the pivot. They're already starting to juke and jive. We got to go after the guns. It's not the person, it's the gun. Russ used to say it was never the driver of the SUV, it was the SUV that caused all the damage, that did the deed. It was the SUV that was drunk driving. Man, CNN has fallen off so far. MS Now / BS Always has fallen off so far. Our mainstream media has fallen off. It is breeding a level of trustworthiness that is just not acceptable. We were always taught to be skeptics in school when they taught critical thinking and critical deduction in school, to be skeptical of things that were found. But it's just going to a whole new level. And I just do not have the ability right now to go ahead and chop up video, but there are people out there like Hassan Piker. I would love to play this 14-second clip. You wanna talk about the radical right? No, it's the radical left. That's allowed on YouTube, that's allowed on Twitch, that's allowed on Meta. They're sitting there building up these, they're literally ticking time bombs. And I was talking to brother Rick, and I was like, "Rick, I truly think I figured out what it is that they're going for, and when we get back from this commercial break, I'll tell you what I think it is." You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're moving and grooving. We're off and running. The mainstream media, through its proxies, whether it be TV, radio, or other social media platforms, is all trying to make it sound like, well, the left wing isn't as violent as the right wing media. The left wing terrorists aren't as bad as the right wing terrorists. What the level of gaslighting that's going on right now in trying to make people believe that the sky is red when it's actually a little bit cloudy, overcast today. It's sickening. And the left is using all of its organs, all of its proxies, all of the tools that it has in its toolbox to try to get us to believe something that is not actually there. Now, last year, September, October timeframe, I talked about this study from the University of Maryland and how the raw data shows that the left is more politically violent than the political right. Well, there have been 3 new papers come out, and wouldn't you know it, the right is now more politically violent using the same data. And there are 112 different or 152 different attacks that I have to go through, but I've only gone through one. I picked it at random. It's this Pittsburgh synagogue attack. And what it turns out, he was an independent. He was not MAGA. He said that we had a kike infestation. Not sure what a kike is, but anyways, that's what it said. That's what he said. His motive was pure far-right extremism, not mainstream Republican politics. I don't know anybody on the far right. Is MAGA far right? Is being a Republican far right? You know, Elon has that infamous tweet showing the shift of the Overton window where Elon is a center-left kind of dude, but now he's considered far right. This whole notion of us running to our favorite AI platform of choice, ChatGPT, Claude, Siri, Grok, and going to get smart quick is actually making us more stupid. We're not reading as much. We're not having intellectual debates as much. It's like who can go to their AI first and get their own self-fulfilling prophecy fulfilled first. Who can get their confirmation bias first. Meanwhile, here in the real world, life moves on, ladies and gentlemen. Life moves on. I want to get back to some of these clips I've got from this. Listen to this. This right here, and I'm getting this from Maze, by the way. This is the left wing.
The permission structure for violence. You've got polls about political violence. Democrats don't think it's a good idea. Only Republicans, only people inclined to consume conservative media are now, I think, upward of 50% say that if necessary, violence is okay.
She's actually stating the exact opposite of what that study from Maryland said. But yet she comes off as an info babe, trustworthy, because of MS Now / BS Always. Trustworthy because it's on CNN. Andrew, the ratings at CNN and MS Now are completely cratering. Yes, but they still are the ones that get the most quotes. They're still the ones who people are running back to. And in the second hour, I'm going to completely go in on the teachers and our education system. But even in our education system, they're dumbing it down. They're not teaching mathematics the way that we were taught when we were going to school. Well, that's because math has changed. No, math hasn't changed. Math is still the same. We don't teach our kids to read using phonics anymore. We use different things. The C3 reading curriculum, which is actually causing our kids to become less able to read. Everybody talks about the Mississippi Miracle, the Mississippi Miracle. Ladies and gentlemen, if you really break down that Mississippi Miracle, you're not going to be too impressed. Yes, we are passing the test, and we should be grateful for that. But I'll tell you what, this education bill that we've got, we need to roll it back. I was talking with Clay, and I was like, look, the best thing that we could do, literally, is end the internet and end digital consumption, social media. But if we did that, humanity wouldn't do that. So humanity is basically admitting to itself that it's hooked on cocaine, hooked on speed, hooked on fentanyl, but we still want it because feelings. It's to the point to where we are committing societal suicide with our consumption of news, of information, of data. It's quick. YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, other content that is less than 30 seconds or 60 seconds in length. It's completely frying out the brain. Yep, getting text right here asking me to retweet that Kamala clip. I retweeted it. That was from Defiant Elves. I can't, and then of course I always use Mazemore. If you're not following those two on X, then you're definitely missing the plot. But that even gets me to this: how much time do you actually spend reading anymore? Because for show prep, I can't go by the New York Times. I can't go by the Washington Post. I can go online, but we've shown the studies there too that online reading, we just don't have the memory retention that we do from reading a book. We don't. So when we go to sit there and try to figure out, hey, where are we getting our information from? We're getting it from the algorithm that we're programming, whether it be in your Samsung, Apple, or laptop or desktop computer. We're programming ourselves. It's just, are you programming to have a soft landing, or are you going to try to crash it all into the ground? You look at those social media platforms like Reddit and Blue Sky. I encourage people to go there and look at it to see the absolute dystopian worldviews that so many of those people are living in. And then they come out into the real world. They join Antifa. They go to those types of protests. No Kangs. Think about this. There was a No Kings protest in London, England, with 500,000 people protesting No Kings. I wonder how King Charles feels about that. It's like they get us into the chant. They get us into the rush. They're always out there with their tambourines and their drums doing the beat. Everybody's joined the chant. I can't help but think of a band called Nitzer Ebb, and they have this song called Join the Chant. I'll have to use it as bumper music sometime. But it just gets you amped up and fired up, and then you go out and do stupid things. We are not functioning as a good society. Everything that got us to this point, we're neglecting, we're trashing, we're throwing away. And we're going on new hypotheses, not even sound hypotheses, but just new hypotheses. I still, for the life of me, can't figure out how this new age religion is supposed to make us grow and expound. It's a suicide cult. Our birth rates are completely dropping. I look at, get tagged on these groups in Facebook, and they're asking local state reps to put price caps on fast food because kids can't cook for themselves. They got to go get the DoorDash or the Chick-fil-A, the McDonald's. Shout out to the Chinese restaurant over there in Byram, by the way, next to the AT&T store. They got a mean General Tso chicken. I try to get that every once in a while. That's good. We don't teach things like farming and animal husbandry in school anymore. We don't have to. The Kroger god, the Walmart deity brings the food to the store and it just magically appears. And I take this piece of plastic and I scan it and it's mine. Never mind that Walmart's been shown to add weight to all the meat that they're producing. Allegedly, of course. People, the skills that we take for granted as Xers, as boomers, as silent generation, those skills that we take for granted, our kids are not getting. And if you think that the public school system is going to improve, let me tell you, I've got some beachfront property in Montana that I want to sell you. It's always 75 degrees. It's always sunny, never a cloud in the sky, gentle breeze, seagulls, great views. It's only getting worse. There's a real teacher crisis coming, but it's not what you think it is. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
Y'all motherfuckers missed again. Oh my god. Ah, I'm already crying.
Imagine faking your own assassination attempt for the third time, and then everybody's just upset that it wasn't real and that you didn't croak.
I wake up each morning.
Hey, we're on a commercial break.
Oh, I know that, but I'm not going to be able to talk to you whenever I get to work, so I just want to tell you this. I don't think there is a far right. I think once you go far enough right, you become independent, and you start farming and raising your own chickens, and you go completely off of what society has to offer. Just a thought.
I'm going to use it. Thanks, brother. I hope you're doing well. Did you have a good weekend?
Oh, man, I had a great weekend. Had some new chicks, and everything's going great.
Dude, that's awesome. We'll catch up later this week, all right?
Sounds good.
Later. Grok, what are the high points of the Shooter's Manifesto? What are the high points of the Shooter's Manifesto? What are the high points of the Shooter's Manifesto? Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. So much more to get into. I want to get through all of this assassination stuff that I have saved. I prepared for you. I just want to get through it because next hour is what I'm really excited for. You remember, I don't normally call people names, but if Rush Limbaugh's got a name for him, I'll use it. Remember good old serpent head, James Carville? This is what he said about Donald Trump.
I want to be clear on this. I do not want that man to die. I want to watch him suffer. And I can't watch a dead person suffer. So I want him to be fully cognizant come November. So when people tell him, I want to.
Does that sound like a peaceful person on the left to you? This guy is the architect of the Democrat playbook for the last 20 years, along with Axelrod. This is one of Obama's chief advisors. He wants people to suffer. Man, I've seen humans suffer from wounds, from injuries, from burns. It's not something that I ever want to see. I don't wish suffering on anybody. In fact, I would say that watching people suffer is one of the things that really makes me uncomfortable. But here you have the left doing that. Clay and I, we do a lot of the same show prep. Sometimes we overlap, and I know Clay played this, but I want to play this too. This is 2 minutes and 19 seconds of pure leftist hatred.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
Biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
I got that from End Wokeness on X, and I'm grateful for that. These are the videos that are being consumed not by people in the blue collar crew or the white collar crew. These are being consumed by college students who have no jobs and people who have no jobs and have nothing better to do than to sit there and watch CNN, MSNBC, or hang out in Blue Sky all day. And you hear something enough, you start believing it. I mean, that was mainstream media news clips there. That was then Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, Vice President Kamala Harris, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who called me a Tea Party terrorist back in 2011. I'd wear it with a like a badge of honor. I was like 10 feet away from her, and I had my little Tea Party lapel on. It was during the budget debate. She called me a Tea Party terrorist. You think about kids 10, 11, 12 years old watching this. Oh, Andy, they're too young. We're busy watching K-pop Demon Hunters. No, they're not. Your kids are growing up way faster than you think. And you all should be paying attention to what your kid is consuming. That's like if I ever get back to doing some more writing, that's going to be one of the chapters. It's going to be, what are you consuming? Like, I think about what I consumed this weekend. Sunday, consumed a sermon on Acts. Did a study on Jonah, on character. Let's see, I did watch Iron Man 2. Yep. And I actually had a little bit of a break. Did not watch any Arsenal. My sports idolatry is rapidly declining. If you would have met me a while ago, it was all about the Arsenal. Now it's just not. But what am I consuming? Am I consuming stuff that's good for me? Or am I consuming stuff like what's on CBS, NBC, and CNN? I'm happy I do not have cable anymore. I feel the more time I spend out, even though I can't really go out and move the sheep and spend time with the sheep, like trimming hooves and stuff like that, just being out there, I'm 1,000 times happier and better because I'm not consuming this hate TV, this hate media. There needs to be a new name for it. This division media where they're pitting one side of us against the other. Brother Rick had an interesting hypothesis, and I think it's one worth exploring. There is no such thing as the far right anymore. It's just the strong independent who doesn't believe the right or the left, who believes in a uniparty system. And there are a lot of people on the left who believe that there's a uniparty out there. I know that there's a lot of people in the Republican Party who are really upset with the Republicans in Washington, D.C. Where's the SAVE Act, Save America Act? That's kind of just disappeared, hasn't it? What happened to the Epstein files? That just disappeared, didn't it? Yet when I got the synopsis of this guy's manifesto, he's ticked off at the pedos. This is just my opinion, but until that list comes out and all those people are held to account, we're never going to know true peace. There'll be those anti-Israel people who say, "Oh, it's all Israel, it's all Israel." Those will be pro-Israel people saying, "No, it's not. It's somebody else." We have been diced up, cut up, sliced apart like a seasoned French chef. Finely minced. Perfect little bits. Every one of us falling into our own little space of what we believe. And that's how we go forward. And none of us are singing from the same sheet of music. But we're all going to be served on a dinner plate to the political elite if we're not too careful about this. I just, for the life of me, can't get over that we've now had 3, some say 4 assassination attempts on President Trump. We had brother Charlie Kirk martyred. When are we just as Americans going to say enough? We're in the middle of a full-blown invasion in America right now. When we get back, we'll talk about what Shad said about what's happening with that invasion right here in Mississippi. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
Stay behind the perimeter. Do not cross that gate.
I don't care.
You're locked up.
Hey, you guys.
Yes. Back up.
Hey, welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I was just sent a video. This one was coming from Laura Loomer, and I was going to play it, but she drops an F-bomb, and it's not worth it. But what it is it's one of these women protesters. You know, the women, they get out there, and they have to prove their street cred. And she was wearing one of those Palestinian scarves around her neck. Kefia, is that how you say it? I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards anyone's religion. You know me, and name pronunciation just not there. But yep, she ended up getting arrested for it. It's just another way that they're dividing Americans upon ourselves. But one of the ways that they're doing that is through illegal immigration. And good old Kingfish over at Jackson Jambalaya, I always like using him when I can as a news source. He ended up retweeting or reposting State Auditor Shad White's most recent report. State spent millions on Medicare for illegals. I want to spend that money right here in Hinds County on American citizens who need help. Mississippi taxpayers spent over $10.5 million on Medicaid for illegal aliens from federal fiscal year 2023 to 2025, according to a new report from State Auditor Shad White. If this money had gone to benefit lawful citizens, it could have been reduced our taxes, paid our teachers, paid our police officers. Frankly, anything would be better than serving as a magnet for illegal immigrants to come to the United States, said White. And he's right. You know, they're still lined up waiting to see what happens when President Trump is no longer the president. Are we going to reopen up our borders? Are we going to go ahead and get tougher on immigration? I mean, when I think about this from a military point of view, put on my strategery hat, it's so brilliant. I get my force, my army inside the country that I'm trying to take over, and then I have that country that I'm trying to take over feed, clothe, and shelter my army. Meanwhile, I go ahead and I start taking over the education system, the church, the media, the economics. It's absolutely devastating. Look, they've got us focused on so many different things. Whatever happened to Doge? Elon was in there for a half year and he was exposing all this stuff and nothing happened. John Thune and the Senate shut it down. The Save America Act, what happened to that? John Thune and the Senate shut it down. The Epstein files, Pam Bondi killed it. All these things that had conservatives energized and all singing from the same sheet of music has been effectively shut down. The only answer here is to have a federal government continue to do exactly what the Trump administration is doing, which is close our borders and enforce our immigration laws. I would also say that good on the Mississippi legislature for making illegal immigration a state crime as well, so that we can move and groove and help the nice agents. Did anybody see that? I thought it was satire, but someone said it might actually be true that they're thinking of changing the name of ICE to National Immigration and Customs Agent Enforcement. So instead of an ICE agent, it would be a nice agent. And now all the mainstream media has to refer to ICE as nice. I see what he's doing there, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Mississippi taxpayers deserve to know the cost of illegal immigrants in our state. We do, but we're so concerned about where the next paycheck's coming from, where the next meal is coming from. A lot of us have 9-to-5s out there, and we're struggling. And we're just continuing to be fed this hate and discontent. And look, a lot of people say that it's the education system that's failing us. They'll say that our kids aren't learning. What if I told you that it's not the teacher and the education's fault? What if I said it wasn't even the student's fault? What if it's the parents? That's what we're going to talk about in the next hour, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB.
Points forward. And I have never seen the level of disrespect I'm seeing right now in this group of kids this year. Like, consequences are beyond them. I'm not understanding.
Genuinely concerning issue. As a substitute teacher, this is becoming a genuine. Okay, this is becoming a genuinely concerning issue. Okay, this is becoming a genuinely concerning issue. As a substitute teacher, I am encountering a really concerning number.
And we are back for hour number 2 of the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. And we're streaming on Rumble. And we're streaming on X. And we're streaming on YouTube. And we're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch that is 103.9, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Help us grow the channel and the station. We'd really appreciate that. Follow me on X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. I've already retweeted a bunch of stories that I used in the first hour talking about the attempted assassination attempt of President Trump. But before this whole presidential assassination attempt at the correspondence dinner happened, I was actually going in really hard on the education system in America because I do feel it's failing us. I have direct interaction with very late Gen Z kids and also Generation Alpha kids. And fam, it's not looking good. Not looking good. In fact, it's downright frightening. But so what I started doing is looking at scores and looking at all the usual suspects, thinking I was going to blame the teachers union, which I should. The union is definitely to blame for a lot of what's happened over the past 20 to 30 years, 40 years. Promoting incompetent teachers, promoting incompetent curriculum, promoting things that should not be talked about in school, but should be brought up by parents the way that they want to talk about it. And they've created such a tidal shift in humanity. And the person I was most upset with, I think, out of the whole thing was probably unions, teachers, and then the kids and the parents. But if I had to rewire this whole thing, I'd blame the parents, and then the unions, and then the teachers, and then the kids. Because there's too many babies out there raising other babies. Especially in lower income family. It doesn't matter whether it's black, white, Hispanic, Asian. When you don't have mama at home laying down the law, when you don't have a father in there who can go in and clean house when it needs to be cleaned, you're having a real problem. And I don't like getting on TikTok too much, but I found myself doing the one thing that I detest, which is spending time on social media. But I'm getting these personal testimonies from these teachers who are having to try to teach kids who, not that they don't want to learn, they don't have the capacity to learn. They don't have their brains are just mush. Some people call it brain drain. Some people call it, Gen A calls it brain rot. Gen Z calls it brain rot. Believe it or not, a lot of Gen Z kids do not like social media. They're going back and watching different types of media, like 80s movies, which I'm not going to say is great, but it's better than what we got today. I was asked, what's going to a mall like, Dad? And it's pretty fascinating. They actually have documentaries on going to the mall back in the 1980s. And these Gen Z kids are just devouring it. You've got these professors promoting new types of curriculum. Back in the day, we called it Common Core. This new math, this new reading and writing. Completely ineffective, completely dumbing down our kids. They can't even deductively reason. You know, you have kids out in the sticks who are farming at 3 and 4 years old. They're already starting to solve complex geometry problems. They understand what a pasture is and the dimensions of it, and they can have some sense of feel of what the hell is going on inside their brain. These kids can't anymore. And I just want to go ahead and play this teacher here. I'm going to have to restart it.
Understanding how when I am so over these students feeling like consequences are beyond them. I'm not understanding how when they do something, they don't understand the consequence for it. And I have never seen the level of disrespect I'm seeing right now in this group of kids this year. Like COVID is not to blame for that. And honestly, we have sat down in meetings where parents are crying. And who is to blame for this? Where are these kids getting this from? They're looking for school to be some type of party where they come to school, play around with their friends, and then at the last minute, oh, what can I do to get my grade up? You can listen the first time and you can do what somebody asked you to do. No pencils. Where's your materials? I don't got none. First of all, your grammar is wrong. But that's your job to give me a pencil. Like the freak. And as soon as you write them up and show them the consequence of their action, oh, it's all hell breaking loose. I'm genuinely over it. Like,
And this is just the first half of this video. And you've heard of me talk about my first grade teacher, Mrs. Gable, and the guitar, and her turning it into the honky tonk man. You can't have that anymore. Where is it that these kids are not growing up with consequences in life? You know what they're learning? They learn if they pitch a big enough fit and they throw big enough of a temper tantrum, they're going to get what they want. Just give them the iPad and shut them up. No. You know what? This is what made Generation X so good. Our mamas at 8 o'clock in the morning on non-school days kicked us out of the house at 8, and we could come back in at around noon for a quick PB&J. And if you were lucky, you had Doritos or Cheetos, but normally just stale potato chips. And then you were kicked out until dark. These kids today wouldn't know what the heck to do. They never had the joys of building a tree fort. They never had the joys of going swimming. They didn't have the joys of riding bikes and building ramps and doing all the crazy stuff that we did. Generation X is a very weird place because we grew up analog and then we switched to digital. So we're not quite as quick on the draw as like a millennial or a Gen Zer, but we've got so much real world experience. And wouldn't you know it? Isn't this true in life? It's the real world experience that gets you through the toughest times. You fall back onto those real world experiences, that real world training. And these teachers are just falling out. I want to finish this one.
I'm at a point where I'm merciless. Like areas where I showed mercy when it shouldn't have been, I'm done with that. Seriously. If it's not a kid who's trying, who I genuinely see has been trying and working hard throughout the year, we don't assign homework because we know they're not going to do it. We go through.
Man, wouldn't that be great with us growing up in the 80s? No, Mrs. Wiebrecht, we're not going to do our homework. Oh, I'm not going to give you any homework. Mrs. Wiebrecht gave us double spelling. I remember we tried that once. Mrs. Wiebrecht's 5th grade class. That was the wrong move. Sport model.
The classwork with them so they can get it complete. And still, they still don't get it done. And here come parents in meetings. Oh, well, I wonder why a teacher didn't call me earlier. Why weren't you checking your child's grades earlier and you contact us?
And she's about to go in on the parents here. And this is where I think we need to. And if we're grandparents, we need to talk to our kids and say, hey, are you checking up on Sally Sue's grades? Are you following her report card? I'll tell you what, Toots McCracken, she's in her junior year, and we are monitoring those grades closely. And some of them, they're good, but they could be better. Actually, they're great, but they could be phenomenal. And we ride her behind on it. And look at the tools that parents have today. We didn't have computers to check on our grades back in the day. We got a midterm report that was sent home and our parents had to sign. And we had a homework folder that we had to show our parents all of our grades. And my mom, who worked 3 jobs, would sit down for an hour, a cherish hour, and she would go through my homework file and my sister's homework file, making sure we were all on the down low. We were all getting good grades. And good grades for me were not the same as good grades for my sisters. My sisters were much better students. I was too busy being a young boy full of energy, wanting to build stuff. I really didn't enjoy the classroom environment. But I had teachers who kept me on the right path.
It's getting to a point where parents are saying in meetings, well, if they have to fail, let them fail. And that's what it's looking like for me too. Because bending over back.
If I have to let them fail, then let them fail. And that is exactly where the government wants us. They want a generation, an entire generation of kids who can't read and can't write, can't think for themselves, who can only depend on the government to get all of their resources. You have to vote this way so that you can continue to get your food because you don't know how to grow it yourself. You have to vote for the government because you don't know how to build a home and to house yourself. You can't find a job because you don't have the skills. Oh, whoa. And I think that's the big play, Brother Rick. It won't be Gen X, Gen Y, or Gen X or Gen Z, millennials. We all have enough common sense in us, but these Gen Alpha kids, there's a reason that they're resetting it. There's a reason that they're calling it Gen Alpha, is because they're resetting the American dream. They're resetting expectations. They're basically trying to reset the way humanity thinks about itself. You know, there's lots of people out here with all sorts of time on their hands. They have a small house with a small yard, and they manicure it and keep it really looking good. But I continue to ask my daughter's friends, "Hey, how many of you can grow a plant?" And they just nervously laugh because they know I've asked them for the last 5 years. Maybe 2 of them have figured out how to grow a tomato plant or a cucumber plant. Many of them just think it's the magical food fairy that visits Kroger and Walmart. And I hear the preppers out there saying, "Yeah, Andy, you tell them it's gonna be great." Dude, it's gonna suck. When you see famine all around you, if you've ever been to a country that's been, surviving famine, if you've ever had to experience true human suffering, it's dreadful. And that's what's being baked into the system, and none of us are paying attention to it. Not a one. Let's finish up with what this teacher says.
Was to help somebody who really does not want to be helped but want something handed to them. No, that is not how life operates. Want somebody to push them through the system. No, you're going to work for this, just like the other kids had to work for it. I am.
And this teacher, I'm not sure where she's from, but her name is Miss Selma. God bless her for doing this. We need more teachers to come up and just start saying, "Nope, you're failing." I guarantee you they'd do a study real quick and find out kids who spend more than 20 minutes a day on their cell phone / screen are turning into vegetables. Their brains full of mush and scum. I mean, it's not too difficult to find some stuff that you probably shouldn't be looking at on the web. What makes you think that a 3-year-old just pushing buttons on a app can't find the same thing? When we get back, I've got a substitute teacher, and if you thought this was bad, just wait. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're talking about the education system. We're talking about how they're raising a generation of kids to be dependent on the government. And I just got sent this picture of one of those newfangled gas cans. It just said, remember, before you ask the government to do anything, they screwed up a perfectly good gas can. And that's true. I'll tell you what, there's whole YouTube videos out there on how to get a normal gas can again. But that's neither here nor there. This is a substitute teacher. And I'm going to play this because I want to really drive home that while we can complain about our teachers, and I'm absolutely floored that there's the LGBTQ experience going on in Clinton High School right now, but it just is what it is. Parents have some of the blame, well, a lot of the blame, because they're not producing good toddlers to go into pre-K. You know, we always talk about education, education, education. We need a good education and priority programs. Well, when your priority program is a new iPad or an iPhone with an extra big screen so that they can touch stuff. Man, my mother used to tell me she would give me these toys that were supposed to make me grow and develop geometry and shapes and stuff. And she said I used to like playing inside the box itself and not the toy. It would always anger her and my father. I don't remember that, but somehow I believe it. Sometimes going out and actually doing stuff matters. All right, here we go. Listen to this sub.
Concerning issue. As a substitute teacher, I am encountering a really concerning number of students who truly do not see any value in learning because as one of the 4th and 5th graders that I was teaching the other day asked me, why do I need to know any of this if a computer or AI can do it for me?
Think about that. And that's a logical question for a kid of that age to ask. Why show your work? Why show your algebra work? Why show your work in mathematics or English? I've got the button right here that tells me how to do it. Totally acceptable question for a kid of that age to do it. What's not happening is saying you're not always going to have AI. You're not always going to have a computer. What happens when the lights go out? And I'm not one of these doomers that's saying all the lights are going to go out forever and ever in a day. But it could go off for a month. It went off for a couple of weeks in northern Mississippi this year with that ice storm, which MDOT did do a good job of removing the ice considering the resources that it had. But this teacher looks completely this substitute teacher looks completely frazzled.
A little girl didn't want to learn how to read because why would she need to when she could have the computer read it to her? Why would she need to know how to count when a calculator could do it or when she could just take a picture of her math problem and have the AI do it for her?
Think about that. How smart is that girl? She's like, I don't want to waste my brain bites learning how to read. I'll let Audible read it for me. Now, let's be truthful, Gen Xers, boomers, silent generation. We all love a good audiobook. We all love a good news program. We all appreciate being fed good music. But we all have that background to where if the spit hits the fan, we can go and we can read a how to survive book. Some of us might even have a bug out kit ready to go with matches dipped in wax so if it get wet, it gets wet, it doesn't get ruined. Some of us have spent our time, you are what you can consume, right? So some of us are consuming survival type stuff, getting enjoyment out of gardening, wildflowers, running bees, running sheep. And I've got a sheep story for the end of the show today. You're not going to want to miss. It's incredible. But we spend our time consuming stuff that's meaningful and that skibbity dibbity doo-wop riz. These kids are making up their own language and no one understands what the heck they're saying. They don't even know what they're saying to each other. It just rhymes and they laugh at it.
this is a legitimate issue because if for whatever reason we lose the ability to have access to these things, we have an entire generation of kids who's going to be entirely helpless without the internet. And that is not okay. If you as a parent are encouraging this behavior and allowing your child to use AI for everything, you have a problem and you need to be teaching them otherwise.
And, that's not a regular teacher, that's a substitute teacher. Which leads me into the teacher crisis that we have. Everybody thinks that we're not paying the teachers enough money. Oh no, they're getting plenty of money. They just don't want to put up with your kids' BS at school. There's plenty of other videos, and I'm going to save them for the rest of the week, throughout the week. But there's plenty of videos of where teachers are saying, I just don't want to put up with the kids and these attitudes. And then we all know the mamas who come in who are busy watching the days of their lives during the day, sitting on the couch with the puffy Cheetos, 200 pounds overweight, waiting for boo-boo to come home. You getting good grades, son? Yeah, Mom, I am. All right. And then all of a sudden the good grades don't come and the phone call comes and she comes in guns blazing, not at her kid for getting poor grades, but at the teacher for pointing it out. Who wants to be subjected to that? I'm telling you, you can have a 6-figure paycheck, a 7-figure paycheck, and at some point it just doesn't become worth it anymore. Oh, Andy, for $100,000, I'll stand on my head. Yes, you could, and you would do it for a couple years. But then all of a sudden, the grind kicks in. The heaviness kicks in. Just the ultimate feeling of dread of getting up in the morning to go into work. Some of us feel that now with our current jobs, but we struggle through it. Money would make it struggle a lot better. I'm telling you, these teachers are leaving in droves. And the number one thing that they're blaming is the kids' attitudes and the parents. Maybe not necessarily in that order. Some teachers are actually blaming the parents more than they are the kids, which I do see that point of view. If little Billy Bob doesn't know that he's not supposed to hit people because his parents don't correct him, and he comes into school and starts meleeing in the first grade English class, well, I can see why they would punish the child, but maybe little Billy Joe didn't understand what the rules of society were. Goes back to it, just popped into my mind, the social contract. There's a social contract out there right now that says if I'm walking down the street, I'm not going to clock somebody in the head just because. But there is a culture out there that loves playing knockout. Hello? Our social contracts that have made us what we are, that made America great. Not just the government contracts, not just the social contracts, but the spiritual contracts. I mean, it's downright frightening where this is heading. And Gen X, we're going to see it. The boomers might not make it there. Silent generation probably won't make it there. But Gen X, we're going to be in the soup. And millennials, you're going to be in the soup. Gen Z, I don't know what to say to you. I hope your parents got a good bug out kit and have taught you well. Because they are getting rid of classes in high school and replacing it with AI fundamentals. And AI is beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. I've been working on my apologetics, and I'm working on something called the Islamic dilemma. And I can actually debate Grok and sharpen my skill set up. It's incredible. It is so valuable. You want to learn Spanish right now? I could literally say, Grok, teach me Spanish. Okay, we're going to set that up, and off you go. AI, can you explain to me the theory of astrophysics? It can do that. Whatever you can think up and dream, AI can start teaching you about it. It's beautiful. It's like owning a library. Except unfortunately, when you audibly hear something and you see it on a screen, it doesn't fire off the same sensors and synapses in your brain that it would from a book. and sitting in a classroom. And there's enough data out there now to explain that. But we as grandparents and as parents are not getting that into our kids. And the teachers are getting frustrated. And to the teachers union out there, I still think you're as bad as the day is long. But to all those teachers out there who are struggling through the crappy administrators, the bogus rules that you have to pass kids, all the nonsense, I genuinely feel for the teachers. Man, I could only imagine if Mrs. Gable couldn't break out the honky tonk man with someone like me coming into her class. And it only took once. My mom tells the story a lot better than I do. She remembers it a lot differently. But it only took one correction. But man, you correct little Billy in school today, you're going to have the principal there, the superintendent there, the guidance counselor there, the school resource officer there, member of Congress, perhaps the governor. Everybody's going to be there. And it's not the teacher's fault. It's yours, the parent, because you allowed your kid to turn into a monster. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Andrew Gosser Show. Think about this. There is so much craziness going on in the world. There's so much madness going on in the world. We haven't even talked about Iran and how they're about to come to their day of reckoning. I know many of my friends on the left don't understand this blockade or why we're doing that, but for those of us who have spent any amount of time watching, we're basically letting the infection build up to where they can't have it anymore and their system is going to go pop. Their oil reserves are about to be capped and they will never be able to produce like they did before, at least without new technology. And hopefully by then we're at some 0 point energy. We've spent absolutely no time talking about how well we're doing in Iran. Sure, they get the crazy missile story and the fear mongering from the mainstream media. I've got a story here from Dark Horse Press, opinion piece. Vital journalism is under stress by Bill Crawford, a syndicated columnist from the Mississippi Press Association out of Jackson, Mississippi. I'll put it on X, but long story short, good journalism's hard to find, ladies and gentlemen. Good journalism is hard to find. And if you're someone like Nick Shirley and you're doing good journalism in California, they'll try to pass a law to ban you from doing it. I'm just putting this here on X because I know people ask about it all the time where I get my story. This is coming from Dark Horse Press. I love the smaller news agencies. I feel that they do a more accurate job. The Jackson Jambalayas, the Kingfishes, the Dark Horse Press lady, I'm not sure of her name, the Magnolia Tribune. And it's been a few days since the release came out that the Southern Poverty Law Center was sending money to the Exalted Cyclops and the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. During the commercial break, I searched their website using their little search option on the Mississippi Free Press organization. No reports of the indictment on the Southern Poverty Law Center. Mississippi Today, the Pulitzer Prize winner. Nothing on the Southern Poverty Law Center indictment. Yet my friends on the left, and you know who you are, you're sending me this crap all the time. And I even use some of it from time to time. Some of it is actually good, but when your own side can't report on your own poop, that Pulitzer Prize is looking more like some Charlie Brown toilet paper to me. But there's another story out there. I got to find it. It's right here. Here it is. Guess who was endorsed by the SPLC Action Fund, ladies and gentlemen? 3, 2, 1, go. Benny Thompson, endorsed by SPLC Action Fund. This is coming from Frank Corder at the Magnolia Tribune. Again, small independent news journalist. And you know, everybody knows I don't agree with everything Magnolia Tribune says, but they're actually reporting this. Mississippi 2nd District Congressman Benny Thompson was among a group of 10 incumbent Congressional Black Caucus members who received an endorsement from the Southern Poverty Law Center Action Fund on Monday. So, like, the indictment's already out. I mean, how does Benny Thompson answer that? Because I know some of my friends on this who have a more melatonin in their skin than me, who are genuinely shook up by this, knowing that the SPLC is with the KKK. The receipts are there. How does Benny come to grips with this? Thompson, a Democrat who has served in Congress for over 30 years, is running against Republican Ron Eller and Democrat turned independent Benny Foster in the midterm general election in November. SPLC Action Fund is pointed to the looming U.S. Supreme Court decision, Louisiana versus Colliers, as they could gut the Voting Rights Act. Well, it's actually crazy that they point to that because Virginia and their new MAP Act, which we didn't even really talk about on the show, but it's already had a permanent stay upheld. They can't endorse or they can't certify the election because it didn't follow the process it was supposed to follow. And when we look at Democrat-controlled states, it's completely gerrymandered. And it's the Republicans who've been trying to follow the law. And I'm not saying Republicans are great. I am one, and I know we could do better. But if we wanted to draw the maps in Mississippi, like they draw the maps in New York or Illinois or California or Washington or Oregon or Minnesota or Michigan, we could, but we don't. They're trying to make the distinction here that the SPLC Action Fund is a 501c4 and not a C3. And I would just encourage everybody who wants to educate themselves and be edified, go read what the SPLC is saying. Go read what the Free Press and Mississippi Today are saying, which is absolutely nothing. So you can't go there. Go read what Magnolia Tribune's talking about. Go read the audit yourself. I got it saved here permanently on my toolbar. And in case you need to know, it's paragraph 11 and go to count number C, I believe. It talks about the Imperial Wizard, not the Grand Wizard, the Imperial Wizard. And then there's another one. Man, it's mind-blowing. I think it's Article 9, which talks about the exalted Cyclops. Do you see where the news media is that we're supposed to depend on our First Amendment right? It's the freedom of press. Well, it's the freedom of press as long as it's saying what the government wants you to say. As soon as that's the case, then you get Nick Shirley law, like in California. When you start talking about the real truths that need to be talked about, then you're ostracized. Oh, you're not mainstream media. You didn't go to the Columbia School of Journalism, Missouri School of Journalism. The seal of approval right there. I will let this go. I'm going to definitely follow it, and I think you should too, whether you are on the right or the left. I know those of us who are in the common middle find this not even amusing but disturbing and want to know more. I know because some of y'all have texted me. And here's the thing too, the word racist anymore doesn't mean anything. You have people running around calling everybody a racist, and it's just like, it's sad because it's a very serious charge. But when everything you don't like is all of a sudden racist, it holds no bearing. It holds no bearing. And people are just fed up with just, hey, you're a racist. People are like, so? I'm not a racist. You're just crazy. And it's a shame because there are people out there like this exalted Cyclops or this Imperial Wizard or whatever the hell he is, who need to be chastised and held to account. But when your own side, it can't even hold its own side accountable, well, now you've got that problem because the other side's going to say, well, you're no better than the other side, not holding yourself accountable. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show. I will not let you down here on 103.9 WYAB. I just absolutely love it. I don't know if this is Mr. Incognito Man or not, but he just says you're a racist. And for me calling out the Mississippi Free Press, well, look, it's not that I'm calling them out because they're bad. They just don't do any investigative reporting that is meaningful. And if they would have come out and even ran the AP story on the Southern Poverty Law Center, that would have shown that they are fair and balanced. But no, maybe if they wrote an opinion piece that says, perhaps the Southern Poverty Law Center should do a little bit job vetting their workers and what they're doing. But to the rest of us, it looks like the Southern Poverty Law Center is funding their own enemy to make themselves look good. And Mississippi Free Press are in cahoots with them. Instead, they write a powerful opinion pieces like this. Opinion. Power outages can threaten the lives of medical device users. Water is wet, the sun is bright, and stars are in the night sky. Film at 11. Must be that some of that newfangled education that's going through here. How about this? Editor's note. Take time to experience the world where and when you can, i.e. touch grass. But I don't want to end the show on that. I want to end the show on something positive. More life, people, as my friend Curtis says, more life, more life. And everybody knows that I'm a farmer and I love life. This is coming from the Associated Propaganda, but it's actually a crazy story. Farmers in Vermont expected a sheep to have twins. She ended up having rare sextuplets. I'm not a perv, that means 6. And they got a picture of the 6 baby lambs. They're Katahdins, same type of sheep that we have at the BA farm. Ann O'Connor just kept counting sheep and made her anything but sleepy. A sheep owned by O'Connor, who runs Clover and Bee Farm in Underhill, Vermont, with her husband Gunnar, gave birth to a rare batch of 6 lambs earlier this month. Ladies and gentlemen, when we have triplets, the Sweet Bee, Toots, and I, we go nuts. But can you imagine having 6? My goodness gracious, what a blessing. The same ewe previously had quads, and while a recent checkup indicated she would have 2 twin lambs, O'Connor suspected more. Look, us sheep farmers, we're nuts. We go out there and we look at our fat mamas in the morning, we're like, oh, that's going to be twins, that's going to be trips. But I could not imagine seeing a Katahdin ewe with 6 lambs. And it's great because it got a picture of them up against the farm, all happy, smiling. And that's good eating, ladies and gentlemen. That's great eating. It's kind of eating that, man, I want to get a piece of that. So in 6 months, they're going to have a whole lot of lamb to eat. I mean, that's like $350, $400 a ewe right there. That isn't cheap. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the type of stuff that you need to be taking your kids to get involved with. Follow the editor from the Free Press. Go out and experience nature where and when you can. Go to a farm. Go to a farm stand. Go plant a garden. Don't get bogged down in this petty living that the media keeps on trying to push to us. We'll be back to do this all again in about 22 hours, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, take care, be blessed, yes, and amen.